Thank you very much, Professor Bungaran, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not here to speak on behalf of Rspo, so what I'm going to say is very independent views, although my title reads as advisor to Rspo. The talking points that I would like to touch on: the 10 years driving sustainability, palm oil. I coined this word for MPOC a few months ago, calling it sustenance with sustainability, because that's what I feel palm oil is. I will try and give you an overall macro perspective because I think it's necessary for some of the members of the audience. The Rspo landscape, its advancement and significance, and some closing remarks. There are some occasions, ladies and gentlemen, in which one is simply humbled to be part of. And the celebration this week of Rspo's 10th anniversary is, for me, just such an occasion. 10 years ago, 6 visionaries set out on a journey to contribute to the palm oil industry in a significant area, because they realized that the issue of sustainability in palm oil production and use will be the greatest challenge for its future well-being. So let us take a moment to thank those visionaries who are the pioneer signatories to the formation of Rspo. Ahos United and Calcium, which has now become AAK, the Malaysian Palm Oil Association, Migros, Unilever, and WWF Switzerland. May I, at this juncture, add one individual to that list, and that is none other than Mr. Teo Cheng Hai. I don't know where he is in the audience, but I'm sure he is here, who was instrumental in bringing the industry and NGOs together in the Malaysian context. Just to give you an overall picture, just have a look at the consumption last year of the total oils and fats, 17 oils and fats, 180 million tons, but 74% of that goes into food. And energy takes up 11%, and then got chemicals and feed. Who are the major consumers of palm oil? A lot of people I speak to, they think it is Europe. No, it's not Europe. The Indian continent, subcontinent takes up 20% of the consumption, and Indonesia, 13% on par with China, local consumption of palm oil. Then comes EU 27 at 11%. Look at the demand for vegetable oils. Now, it has been forecasted by Thomas Milke that it will double from the 120 mark in 2010 to 240 million tons. And palm oil demand is going to increase from 45 to 60 and to 78 million, a staggering increase of 33% and 66%. Why? Because of population growth and the higher per capita income. Just look at the gap in the 2 major consuming countries of India and China. The gap between production of their own oils and fats and imports is not narrowing. In fact, for China, it is around 10 million tons, and for India, it's also around 10 million ton gap. Have a look at the dependence on palm oil. In 1980, we were at 5 million tons. Then moved to 11, 21, 45, and 50 last year. What is interesting to note here is every decade, the palm oil production has doubled. This is a projection which I did lately for another institution, looking at the mature areas and yield. And this is the figure I came up with. By 2025, we will have nearly close to 100 million tons of palm oil production. And I've taken very conservative yields, not the yields that has been predicted by government agencies. Let's look at the landscape of Rspo. Because of the demand for palm oil and the rising production underline the relevance of sustainability concerns. This spurred efforts to introduce Rspo, which is conceived as a solution What are the benefits gained to date? I think you all heard that earlier from Professor Tommy Koh and from the Deputy Prime Minister. The negative impacts, there has been a reduction. Socioeconomic benefits, production quality, knowledge distribution, prevention of labor disputes, resolution of land conflicts, but most important of all, we today have a framework for the new players who are moving into Africa, Central America, and other territories. Because Rspo standard is being adopted, I know this for a fact, by many of the major players who are the new kids on the block. The advancement and significance, I see Rspo, it is a multi-stakeholder, consensus-based organization, as you all know, because of its inclusiveness. This is why we have survived the last 10 years. Remember this, the real change can only come when all parties embrace this without resistance, the multi-stakeholder structure, and the importance of its 8 principles. I'm not going to elaborate on the 8 core principles, but we need to look at the principles from a philosophical rationale and not just technical. Why am I saying this? Because we are talking about the relevance of Rspo moving forward, and to achieve that progress, we need to stand by our fundamentals. Its significance again, I see Rspo holding a significant industry stature because it sets the standards today across other agro-based industries. There are not many institutions out there, ladies and gentlemen, that are of an industry nature and as well positioned as Rspo. To continue this stature and to build upon it, Rspo will have to commit further to the basic palm oil issues and not just the environment and the community impacts. What am I talking about? We are facing today adverse commentary on palm's human health issues because some quarters consider it as unhealthy food in spite of all the research findings. So what needs to be addressed? I know the palm oil has a good structure, and so do you. But the role and definition of Rspo, I believe the time has come to stand up for the basic issues like health impacts of palm oil. This is not an easy one in the current structure of Rspo. My question is, should Rspo be guided only by a very stark and sharp definition of an ideal state? Has Rspo delivered? Yes, I say, the results speak for itself. Membership, international acceptance, adaptation, all the global major producers Rspo are being certified. New frontiers are being opened up. Uptake at 14%. Increasingly, Rspo now referred to as producer markets. Global equilibrium, striving to ensure demand, annual communication progress, national endeavors by various countries in Europe, but I would like to see some Asian countries on that list. International companies pledging 100% CSPO, establishing momentum in India and China. Household brands using our trademark today, like these companies, and countries like Indonesia, Australia, US, and Europe. Cynicism over smallholders and how they will embrace or benefit from sustainability. Now that's gradually fading. And you saw the certification that was handed out to the Thai smallholder group earlier on. A platform for civil society to guide the private sector. That's what the Rspo is. Beyond observer and critique role, a substantial involvement and participation in harmonizing interests. Is there a possibility to introduce a multi-state RSPO certification which will allow for weaker companies to get a junior state RSPO certificate and have as guidance for climbing up the ladder of RSPO certification? Perhaps this will make RSPO less daunting to so many of the palm industry players. Like any other standard, it is necessary to make RSPO more contemporary with new expansions, new expectations from stakeholders, and also ensure coverage beyond corporate plantations. Plantation developers can and should take initiative rather than being reactive to consumer-led expectations. Industry participants should commit to milestones to improve the existing PNC. Positioning palm development as responsible and its collateral benefits to countries where it is grown will no doubt create a possible impact in consumer markets and address the stigma that is attached hitherto. From a practical aspect, recognition for CSPO is the largest consuming markets like China, Indian subcontinent, or Africa will take time because the awareness process is not going to be that quick. Some closing remarks. Being involved with the RSPO from its inception, I have learned over the past decade that some of the most useful outcomes flow from the standard setting processes rather than the standard itself. And do remember this, ladies and gentlemen, standards are driven more by markets than by governments or industry. This, of course, can make them much tougher to deal with than laws, because the predictability factor can drop through the floor. In years to come, I believe RSPO will be a case study, thoroughly analyzed, benchmarked against, and used as a reference point for new initiatives. In the meantime, we rest in knowing that in the context of each of us playing our role towards a global crisis, just by our presence here today, a shift has taken place. John F. Kennedy said this way back in the 1960s. Change is the law of life. Those who look to the past or the present are certain to miss the future. And do remember this, ladies and gentlemen, Mother Nature does not do bailouts. Thank you for your attention.